So, um, so many of you guys, your front desk is still answering these phone calls, these insurance questions that are coming right out of the gate, and they're answering it like, "Yeah, we're out of network, but we can get you a super bill." And if your front desk is answering that question that way, you're losing patience really before the conversation even starts. And in this video and training, I want to show you exactly how do you actually overcome that insurance objection so that we can, at the start of that phone call, so that we can get patients saying, when can I actually come in? Instead of, hey, I need to talk to my spouse or I need to think about it. And so this is the first video of a series that I'm going to be putting together, and it's called Fix Your Front Desk. And it's where I'm going to break down basically the biggest places your practice is losing revenue before patients even arrive. And we're kicking off of this series with the most common one, which is insurance objections, especially at the start of the phone call. And now there's going to be three places or three things that I want you to learn from this video. And number one is why you or most of your front desk staff are setting themselves up to fail when these insurance questions come up. Number two, how do we completely reframe this conversation ethically before price even becomes a factor? And then lastly, number three is I want to show you my exact script and framework that we use and language we teach to not only our virtual admins, but also to the other teams we're working with so that we get their front desk booking more patients. And now this is the exact process I've used in my cash practice. We helped our practice recoup $10,000 every single month once we got this in place. And then we also helped another one of our clients. They added $30,000 of revenue to their practice after using some of these frameworks, and that's without spending any more money on ads and marketing and all that good stuff. So let's dive right in. Now, the first big place that this comes up is patients answer the phone and they don't know what else to ask besides, hey, I was hoping to schedule an appointment. Do you take my insurance? And most of the time, practice owners and their front desk don't have an ability to overcome it. So here's what happens. They answer the question directly right out of the gate. And within the first 30 seconds, we're talking about how much your packages are. We're talking about how that you're out of network. And it's like, whoa, this escalated very quickly. We went from, hey, how you doing to, hey, do you want to buy my $2,000 package? It's like, how did we get here? And there's no value or context as to what's going on. And so we need to have some frameworks to actually be able to overcome that. And now, if that pops up super quick on a phone call, what's going to happen? You're going to lose a large sum of those people, right? Because they don't even know you, they don't even trust you, and they don't even know what it is that you do. And so, most people, most front desks, what they try to do at that point is they tell them, "Hey, we're out of network. We can get you a super bill. Our docs are great. They're going to see you one on one for the entire hour. We've got this new laser, or we do dry needling, all this stuff that patients just really don't care about. And it's this like word soup at the beginning of the phone call. And it's just like, this is really awkward. It's almost like somebody just knocked on your door, right? And that you open the door and they're like, "Oh, hey, how you doing? I see you got some windows and your windows look really old. I can sell you this really great window. It's only like $10,000, which I don't know if you know, windows are really expensive, but it's a really weird conversation now, right? Because it's like, what's going on? Like, I just opened my door, I'm confused. And that's what happens to your patients as you're talking to them on the phone. They're very confused because they don't know what else to ask. And there's been no value and there's been no conversation or connection back and forth with each other. And so many practices are going into the cash realm. And so, this idea of being one on one for the entire hour, or having advanced certifications, or having some new piece of equipment or new service offering really isn't enough to get that person over the fence to actually want to come in for a visit. And that's the mistake a lot of folks are making. And so what we need to do, there's a simple fix to this, right? And it's really, really easy. And I hope all of you guys watching this will implement this because it takes seconds and it at least gives you a fighting chance to be able to connect with patients on the phone. And so, what's the fix to this? We need to have a simple acknowledge and redirect moment that goes on. And if most of you guys don't even give yourself a chance to talk and connect with that patient, right? And practice owners, what they'll try to do is they'll try to lower their prices because they think they're too expensive. They'll try to do out of network billing for them. Again, we're talking about the super bills and all this stuff, and that stuff just doesn't matter in the patient's eyes. They just want to know, can you help me? And is this the right place to actually help me? And the fix to doing that is, hey, let's acknowledge their insurance question. Let's tell them we're going to answer it at the end of the phone call. And then from there, let's proceed to actually connect with that patient on a deeper level. And my simple phrase that I use for this, and this is located inside our school community, it'll be linked below this video, or if you're in the school community, feel free to ask me after this training, and I'll be able to get that over to you. But it's we want to acknowledge it. Hey, that's a great question. What I'd like to do first is I just really want to get to know you. I want to make sure it's something that I can help you with. And once I'm sure if it's something I can help you with, then we'll totally chat about insurance and how we can actually get them involved. Easy peasy, right? You want to make sure that the tone and the language is very slow. We don't want to rush through that or sound super awkward because then you're going to get pushback. I have had maybe one patient in 6 years of having my cash practice actually push back on that. The guy probably wasn't a good fit anyways. And so we just kind of tossed him off to the side and he wanted to know about insurance and we told him about it and he didn't want to schedule anyways. Totally fine. But majority of people are going to be like, "Oh, that's totally cool. No worries." I'm excited that you want to find out of whether or not you can actually help me. Because what you also don't want to do is just schedule somebody, maybe your front desk schedules somebody, and this patient shows up. It's like this person's not even appropriate to see me, right? Like this seems kind of silly. Most of the time, you'd catch that from paperwork, but still, I don't want to waste someone's time. And so once I acknowledge and redirect that, that now opens the door. And even if you don't schedule that person, majority of the time, what happens is you connect so deeply with them. And let's say they still object to insurance at the end, you've at least connected with that person. And now they may go somewhere else in network, find out it's not the care that they want or need, or they're not getting better, and they're like, I did talk to that practice a couple weeks ago, and we had a really like good conversation. They seem to care about me. Maybe I'll reach back out to them. And now you've at least potentially re-engaged, and hopefully your front desk is following up with these people a couple weeks after the fact just to check in on them. And now we've maybe reactivated somebody who was on the fence. And that's going to be super important for you for the growth of your practice and stability, as opposed to us trying to, if you just tell somebody you're out of network and they hang up the phone after 30 seconds, there's 0% chance that they're actually going to call you back, right? Because you sounded like every single other clinic. And I know that's the goal for many practices wanting to get into cash or even dropping majority of their insurance providers is they want to connect deeply with their patients, but their front desk don't have the tools to actually be able to connect. And that starts with being able to acknowledge that insurance question and redirecting it on the front end. And so use that simple phrase. Hey, that's a great question. Now, I really just want to make sure it's something that I can help you with. And once I know what's going on, if it's something I can help you with, then we could talk about getting you scheduled. And then we'll talk all about the insurance question that you have. How does that sound? And all the while, they'll say, yeah, that sounds great. And now you're back in the driver's seat. And that's where you want to be as the front desk. Most other like insurance practices, the front desk acts as kind of the person to just answer questions and put somebody on the books. And it's, hey, what's your name? What's your date of birth? Yeah, we take your insurance. When do you want to come in? And it's just this exchange of questions back and forth. But we want your front desk to be a leader, and they need to be the leader of the conversation when they're in a cash practice. Because otherwise, those insurance questions or other objections, I need to talk to my spouse and all that stuff starts to pop up. Now, once we get into the driver's seat, we've acknowledged, we've redirected this, we haven't made this about insurance and cost. Now we need to connect with that patient. And there's a several, schools of thought on this. There's a lot of people who have scripts into their practices. I had this early on in my practice. I've quite frankly gotten rid of scripts in my practice because I don't think it allows you to connect deeply enough with patients. And what I like to teach is utilizing a framework to connect with patients deeply. And that's the ultimate fix to getting rid of objections. And my philosophy and what I've seen in my practice and working with lots of other practices at this point is we need to connect so deeply with patients that they don't care who's going to pay for it, whether it's them, their insurance company. They just want to say, I want to come in and help you because you've been very helpful and provided a lot of value on the phone. And this sounds like the place I want to be. And the way to do that is to have a 10+ minute conversation, ideally even 15 minutes long, but at the starting point, 10+ minute phone conversation with a patient where the patient's doing majority of the talking. And I'm asking skilled questions to get to know them and to understand their story. And I use a framework for that. Now, when I first started, I used a script and I tried to teach it to my front desk, and it was a nightmare because I'm like, hey, follow the script. And I just kept drilling that into their brain. And they were just, it sounded like they were reading off a piece of paper. And then eventually they got where they didn't like it because they felt like they were reading off a piece of paper. So they just stopped following it altogether. And now we weren't asking any questions. We were talking about cost and insurance 2 minutes into the call as opposed to the first 30 seconds, which still wasn't enough time to actually connect with that patient. And so now I utilize a framework. Again, this is located in our school group, literally the entire framework that I teach people off of. And that's obviously linked below, or you can catch me after this and I can send it over to you. But that framework allows me to have a dynamic conversation with the patient. I want to understand what their problem is. Most of the time, it's pain, especially if you're talking about, PT, chiro, functional med is typically more internal type issues. But I want to find out what the problem is, and I want to know how this is impacting their life right now. I don't want, certainly getting some of their history can be helpful, but I don't want 3 years of history. People will deal with pain and problems for 3, 4, 5 years before they actually get help, or even sometimes a lifetime. I need to know what's changed and why they're wanting that help now. And then we want to get some ideas of like what other services they've tried, why that hasn't potentially been helpful or effective. And then ultimately, I want to know what their goals are beyond getting out of pain. Like, again, people deal with this stuff for years. It's the same reason why, there's 100 gadgets for back pain, right? It's like and people buy into these things because they want quick fixes. And so we have to understand what it is that their goal is beyond just getting out of pain. And that can be as simple as, hey, I want to get back to the gym several times a week or get back to running or hey, maybe I'm on a weight loss journey in some capacity. Or for some people, it's, hey, I've got young kids and I just want to be resilient to be around with them. And it's your front desk's job to connect very deeply and understand that story and their goals. And that's why I like a framework because now if the patient's talking about wanting to get back to the gym and the next question on the script is, so, do you have any kids or do you have any family or anything like that? And it's like, well, it's kind of an awkward conversation. We were just talking about the gym, and now you're asking me if I have kids, that's your front desk attempting to connect and find out this person's deeper goals, but it feels like a very awkward conversation. And I don't want these awkward conversations. I want to just be able to listen and ask questions to get clarity. And the more curious you or your front desk, whoever's taking these calls, can be, the more likely this person is to book. And at the end of all of this, the biggest solve is I overcome that insurance objection at the onset. I get in the driver's seat. And now I'm going to use a framework to actually be able to connect with that patient on a deeper level. And the reason we want to do that is because if you understand that patient's story, they're more inclined to trust you when you ask for money. Again, think back to my example from the beginning of this video. If somebody knocks on your door and says, hey, you need to replace your windows, they're $10,000, you're like, I don't even know who you are. There's 0% chance you're going to buy. And it's the same thing on your phone calls. When somebody's picking up the phone and you're asking for $250 when they could get it potentially free or for a $40 copay, yes, I know the quality's better, but they don't know you. You don't know their story. We don't even know if this is going to be a good thing. They don't even know if it's going to be a good thing for them. And when you understand their full story and you've gotten every single detail about how long it's been going on, what they've done or tried, ultimately why it's important for them to solve this problem right now, then they're going to be more inclined to trust you when you say, hey, look, most of our patients, they have insurance, but they choose not to use it because of the quality of care that you're actually going to get in working with us. They're actually going to believe that statement. And now that's your opportunity for you to start talking about what's unique about your clinic and why you can actually help them reach their goal. But if you say, hey, it's $250 a session and we can help you get rid of your pain and back to doing, we can help you get rid of your pain and doing more things, that's very vague. But if we can say, hey, we're going to help you, we're going to work with you one-on-one for the entire hour, and we're actually going to be able to help you get back to running 4 times a week, like you said that you wanted to. And now I know that's important to you because you have a marathon coming up, and I actually want to help you be able able to run that marathon that's coming up, or whoever your patient avatar is. And now they felt seen, they felt heard, and now they're much more inclined. Their guard has been lowered, and now when you tell them very transparently at the end of this phone call that you're out of network, they're going to be like, yeah, that's cool. You sound like a great practice and sound like this is something that I want to do. Now, certainly there's going to be some financial barriers for some people, but a lot of times that's a smokescreen, and that's where this framework comes into really solid, is really going to be solid to help you get the outcome that you're looking for on these phone calls. Now, you want to finish this phone call by being very transparent. You have to tell them you're out of network. You have to tell them that your prices. You told them at the beginning of the call that you were going to tell them. And so we don't want to ruin trust by not telling them that information. But they need to understand, and that's why we don't tell them at the beginning, is they don't understand the context of what they're getting and why we can help. And so once they understand that, we're going to finish up the call by being transparent. And so that's how you fix this stuff, right? This insurance question at the beginning of the phone call is, hey, let me not make it about insurance. Let's not disclose that information until we're ready at the end of the call. Let's have a simple acknowledge and redirect using the phrase that I talked about earlier. And then at the end, we're going to have a framework that allows me to have a connection based conversation over the course of 10 to 15 plus minutes, depending on your price point of your services. And then I want to finish with ultra transparency. And then now, because I've connected so deeply, this patient's going to say, I absolutely need to come in. I'd be silly not to. And that's the best way to prevent objections, especially the insurance objection. And if you're not connecting deep enough and you're getting a lot of these, I need to think about it, or I want to talk to my spouse and all those things, you need to revisit your script and your framework and make sure, and definitely go in and listen to the recordings of your front desk so that you can make sure you're connecting. And so this is just kind of the first big domino. This at least gets you in the driver's seat. And now in the next video and training in this series, I'm going to help uncover the 4 other places that your front desk may be losing leads. And, I know most of your front desk, they're friendly, they're experienced, they sound awesome, they got a great personality, but I want to make sure that we are not having some of these hidden revenue leaks from the front desk. And so check out episode 2 of Fix Your Front Desk once it comes out, and especially if you're serious about converting more patients.